Hello guys, welcome back with me, watch out, spoiler ahead. Today we are gonna review a movie named Anoda, 10,000 Nights in the Jungle. So, without any further ado, let's jump into the story. The movie began with a scene where a man standing on the boat and made his way to Lubang Island in Philippines. He then took a trip into the jungle and made a camp there, raising a flag, in particular Japan's flag, playing their national anthem. His radio slowly disappeared as the scene gone deep into the forest, leading to a seemed-to-be soldier full with his weapon, as if he was on duty. The soldier then walked into the forest and stopped by in a river. He then heard the anthem, making him to remember the memories of the past. Slowly he followed, singing together with the rhythm of the anthem as he closed his eyes. The plot goes back to 1944, when a young Anoda got desperately drunk, approached by a man asking him some question about his private life. He then gave Anoda the spirit again that almost fallen about enlisting to become an army, especially to become a pilot. He gave up his dream due to his disease. It turned out the man was a general major of Japan Army, offered him to become his soldier. 3 months later, Anoda made it to become soldier. He had dinner with his parents. His father asked him where did he put his service in. Anoda said he didn't know it yet. His father then gave him a lesson that his body, like his homeland, if he got captured, he should kill himself using his gift rather than give his life to the enemy. As a good citizen, he must give his life for the emperor. Shortly, Anoda arrived at Lubang Island, Philippines, to run his duty. He brought an order to make a guerrilla war and to dominate the airport before America take over and launch attack to their territory. But several leaders there didn't accept him and his order. They disobeyed him by saying the army can handle that even before America come. Even without agreement of the captains, he still obeyed his official order and gained more men to run his plan, but busted by the captain. Suddenly, Captain Hayakawa got sick and America attacked their camp. It wasn't prepared, and it seemed like Hayakawa's army was an unstructured people. They just panicked when the attack arrived. In the end, Captain Hayakawa died after a bomb dropped right near to their camp. Days later, Anoda led their guerrilla war to join the 900 troops. They found Lieutenant Suihiro in the middle of the trip. He asked him what happened to his army. Suihiro told him America has attacked them on their ship, bombed them. But he managed to escape, jumped to the sea and swam until he got there. He said America has entered the forest. There were also people got sick on the tent. Anoda came to the tent to see it. He found several army laying on the bed suffering. They insisted they rather die and asked him to kill themselves waiting for the enemy, then they could take them away with them. Anoda then took a bomb and gave it to one of them. He and his army then continuing their trip. On their way, he heard a bomb as he suspected came from the last camp he visited before. It means that enemy has becoming closer. They started to worry. But they had uncertain condition, so they went to food shed and started to calculate how they could survive. In the shed, they ate the food, but Suihiro asked Anoda to divide the troops into 2 rations. He considered that Suihiro might not be able to survive, but many of them got influenced by Suihiro, so he decided to pick only the strong and independent man to come with him. He picked 5 of them, the rest followed Suihiro, and they split it up. He then told his troops that he picked them because they still a man, a soldier didn't attempt for his stomach. They need to be tough. It was enough for their food to survive for months and managed to do their goals. One of them asked what the goal is, then he answered to fight over America. Several hours later, while he was sleeping, he was awakened by Kazuka, telling him that the 3 of them has run away. He said let them be. Then he started the plan to attack their enemy, but it was a rainy day. They need to wait or they can't manage to their BQ of the mud. Anoda then told them to wait until the first stop of the rain. But it was raining all day long. Shimada came back after hunting some fruit. He did it bringing a jackfruit. They didn't know about that fruit, so they asked how could he know all about these. Shimada told them that he came up from a farm family, he ever lived in the mountain, so he could know all about nature. The rain stopped, they managed to continue their trip. It was a sunny day. Akatsu who got sick before he was walking slowly until they found the 3 men who was escaped earlier died. He then arrived at a camp which has burned and broken. It was near to the river. Anoda saw a ship sailing further and further, shadowed by the clouds. Anoda swept the place. He found a burned Japan soldier's uniform, but then Shimada shouted from the outside. There were locals, they thought they were American, then they told them war was over. Suddenly, someone shot from behind. It was local attack. They were shot each other until Anoda army won. Akatsu did shot one of them, saved Anoda. Later that night, Akatsu got trembled, he thought he shot wrong guy. But Anoda told them they were still in war, whether with America or Philippines. He also reminded him they shot them first, so they need to fight back. Anoda then told them he was not just a common soldier, he came with a mission, he trained in a secret school. He was dictated to not suicide whatever the situation was. He should survive no matter what. He then told them, if America has leaving the island, that was good for them. The island belongs to them, if anyone objected it, they fight them. All of them followed him to fight. The next day, they explored the whole island for mapping. As they come back to their camp, they started to plan how they would dominate the island. They noticed Akatsu stole rice from Donko. Then they made terror to their risophiles, stealing their rice and burned their rice fields. Making that as their strategy in the future they will do the same every harvest the local get. They managed to move their camp deep in the forest. Later that night, when everybody was sleeping, Akatsu sat and cried alone, made Shimada awake. He was shaken, he doubted the team, that they shouldn't have to do that. They even had no enemy. Shimada tried to calm him. Silently, Anoda heard all of that, so did Kazuka. The next day, Akatsu gone. Shimada wanted to find him, but Anoda ordered him to stay, let him find Akatsu alone. After a while, rain has come, made Shimada and Kazuka built an hut. Anoda found Akatsu dying, sucking by leeches. Finally, they arrived at the hut. Akatsu awake from his rest. Telling them it was his 20th birthday. They congratulated him. He obliged to Anoda, who saved his life, and he was told by Anoda that they were family and family did not doubt and leave their children. Years after years has passed, they moved to place after places. In the day they had to move, there was a little argue between Kazuka and Shimada. Anoda break them up, but they still continue arguing on their way until they got fight each other. Anoda ordered to make a camp there, assuming they were tired. Shimada lose the fight, and he remained quiet looking at his family picture. Anoda agreed with Shimada they need to eat meat. They hunted a cow near the village, Shimada shot it and the rest approached the cow, tried to slaughter it. But they get shot from the farmer. They began to shoot each other until Shimada got shot right on his head. He was dying, Anoda captured the farmer with a wound on his leg. Shimada then passed away, all of them mourned. Kazuka regretted of what he has done to Shimada. Akatsu lost his way without Shimada. He began to doubt Anoda again, but Anoda got mad, accused the farmer for Shimada's death. He ordered them to kill him to revenge Shimada's death. They began buried Shimada down. Later that night, Akatsu chose to leave his troops. Anoda led him away. Now it was just him and Kazuka continuing their guerrilla. Days by days went past until it was a sunny day. There were a bunch of people calling Anoda to come back, telling them that the war is over. They even brought a letter from his father and his brother. Anoda freaked out after hearing that, prepared to shoot on them, but got prevented by Kazuka. He cried and leaned on Kazuka. He declared that was not his father's words. Day turned to night. Anoda and Kazuka sneaked into their tent and stole some of files, radio and newspapers. They found much changed on the newspaper. They also found Anoda's father portrait wearing a suit like a Western. Anoda didn't believe it, that his father was always wearing Japanese traditional clothes. Even they turned on the radio hearing the announcement that the world has changed, they still stand on their tenet, continuing the guerrilla. Instead of interpreted his father's message directly, they began to make a strategy, believing that they were sent to give them a sign war and all its political aspects still exist, concluded them to wait in South Beach. They went there, enjoyed the beach for a while, shared a deep talk. Years gone really fast, they looked much older now, living in a hut. Still doing their guerrilla. In their hut, it was raining all night long. They began listening to the radio. Suddenly they heard sneezing woman. They shocked, then they went outside the hut. They found a woman freezing near their hut. They saved her. Because the weather was bad and the storm kept coming. They decided to kill her in the next day, but the woman shot the gun to Kazuka in the morning, so Anoda shot her back, made her died. After several weeks, Kazuka was getting better. He sucked living on the hunt, so he went to the river in order to do their laundry. Anoda forbid him first, but after hearing Kazuka has been frustrating locked down on the hunt, he then allowed him to go, but with him. In the river, Kazuka lost his weapon. Anoda got mad, tried to find it, but he got nothing until Kazuka found a circle water. He suspected his gun was on there. He approached it and finally he found his gun. They were happy having Kazuka's gun back. Anoda apologized to him for getting mad before. Suddenly, Kazuka got shot with spear. It was fishermen's doing across the river. Anoda tried to save him, but Kazuka got shot twice, made him desperately died and took away by the fishermen. Anoda then escaped. Anoda mourned weeks after weeks, months after months, remembering the time they spent together. 4 years has passed. In the morning, he remembering all of his members, visiting their grave one by one. Declared that he was really proud of his team, he will never forget them until he heard the anthem he was familiar of. He then followed the sound and met the guy I was mentioned in the beginning scene. The guy named Norio Suzuki, a traveler who come in order to find Anoda. He then began to talk with Anoda, even though at first Anoda seemed to be very stiff and pointing his gun on him. But Norio persuaded him, he just only a tourist who come from their land. He asked him to talk a while. He then asked Norio to come to the forest if he wanted to talk. Norio offered him to drink an alcohol so they can talk so much. Anoda slowly began following Norio. He then told Norio to bring his superior there, only to get him home. As much as I see, Anoda was a true soldier. He waited for the official order to defeat her to continue. Norio then went back to Japan, looking for Taniguchi Yoshimi, the major who ordered Anoda in the past. He now became a bookseller and had a bookstore. First, Taniguchi wouldn't tell Norio anything about the military stuff, but Norio kept reminded him to Anoda. He then began to talk about it and willing to come to Lubang Island. 2 weeks later, Anoda came to Norio's tent. Of course, they arrived at the island. He then met his superior, Major Taniguchi Yoshimi. He saluted him, reported to him how he was doing that guerrilla. Then Taniguchi read an official order that Japan has defeated and ordered to pull back their soldier all over the world to come back to their homeland. Then Anoda let out his bullet representing he has defeated. Taniguchi apologized to him and obliged him for keep living. Later that day, he was brought to a helicopter and he returned to his home, to his country. Well, that was a very long review. What I can get from this movie is how hard it would be to survive out of nowhere in the middle of jungle, far away from home. Life and death is at stake. Anoda was a tough man, full with principle, and he held it all the time. That's pretty much for today's video. I hope you enjoy it and we will see you next time.